All right, so we might as well just take it all the way through. So I'm going to do that. We're going to finish up what we're doing and just remind you the way to export it and look at some of the gotchas. Okay, so and then at the end of the last video, I had finished my board layout. I'd done the fill by hitting the B button. I turned the islands for the fill. To never remove islands so that we're not cutting any unnecessary copper. And then I'm going to go, as we know, to File, Fabrication Outputs, Gerbers. I'm going to select DXF. This is just what works for me. DXF, my front copper and the edges is all I really need, and my drills. And I'm going to make sure that I select millimeters, DXF millimeters for me. This is what's going to work. You may have to play around and figure out what you can import into MakeraCAM, but we're going to do that. Hit generate drill files. For me, this defaults to the right stuff that we need. So SVG, millimeters, whatever, generate drill file, close, plot, and we're done. Okay, so now I'm going to head over to MakeraCAM. I'm sure it'd be slow to open. Okay, 3-axis new project. We're a PCB stock with 1.5 millimeters, so that's good. So we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and click Import 2D Model, find my folder, and we'll start with front copper. Zoom out, there it is. Great. Import 2D Model edge cuts. Import 2D Model. Actually, this one is a PCB one. Our normal drill. Just double check. Actually, there shouldn't be any drills. We're not drilling any holes. Look at that. So that's empty. And it didn't even import. So that's wonderful. We only have two operations we need to do, a cutting pass and our edge cut. So that's really great. So what are we going to do? Select everything, hit M. We will make sure that our origin is the bottom left. Perfect. We will move that to 0, 0, and close. And that should put us where we want to be. We're going to delete the inner line of our edge cut. That's weird. We're going to take a look at our copper, and we're gonna kind of imagine what's going to happen if we cut these various areas. Okay, so as we know, we have 3 different types of cut, really, for our 2D. I guess there is a couple of chamfer and thread I'm not even sure about, but we have drills. We're not using drills. The only 2 options we have are pockets and contours. So pocket should try to delete all the stuff that's within the lines. So if we're just looking at our copper layer, we don't want to drill out all of this. That's for sure, right? We really just want to drill along the outside of these lines, right? Which is our contour. That looks correct, right? We just want to contour along those lines or cut out this little bit. This could be a pocket. These could be pocket operations in here. But it's also going to be fine if we just cut on the inside of these little lines, right? So that all looks fine. Honestly, we probably don't need to cut on the outside of these bits, these big islands. So we can go in and we can make smart choices about how we go about this, right? And maybe we do actually just yeah, well, we don't want to remove this one because it's giving us the edge of this pad, actually. So kind of an interesting one. We have our ground coming in here. It needs to connect here, and it needs to connect here. So this is like our thermal relief. But I think this should just be fine if we do a contour. But we want to like double check with our instinct here. So let's go ahead and do that contour operation. So 2D path, 2D contour. As we know, this is a engraving pass, so 0.05 millimeters. We definitely want to make sure we choose our tool, which is our example tool, engraving bits. Set the PCB, choose, double check. The only one. We're going on the outsides. We'll add ramping. Calculate. Oh, we haven't selected our graphics, which are our green graphics. Now we'll calculate. Okay. Now let's just turn this off and take a look at what we're gonna get cut. And that's gonna work. That looks fine. I think we're looking pretty good. We know for sure we're gonna cut our paths out. We're hoping that we're not gonna get any weird copper in between these two lines, but even if we do, that's okay. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, and this will give us something that should work for us. So it's not perfect. We shouldn't need to do these outer cuts necessarily. Maybe I would delete this one. Why even bother? As long as we're cutting the outside of this trace, we should be okay. Same thing with this little island. Some of the islands, that the islands that we left in that aren't really giving us anything here, we could have done away with. So maybe there's a point there to not including the islands in our fill, because we just end up deleting the outline of them at the end of the day. But basically the rest of it, we should go ahead and engrave. So awesome. That looks good. And I believe this is going to, leave my trace in the middle here, and it's going to connect to this other pad the way that I would hope. So all of that is looking pretty good. Then of course we're going to go back, and we've already do this edge cut. So let's go ahead and do, once again, a contour cut. And what's the difference with this one? Our cutting depth is going to be 1.8 millimeters. Oh, we've done a 3D contour, so that's not what we wanted. Where's our 2D contour path over here? So once again, the differences are just going to be, we do a 1.8 millimeter cut. And we choose our the only one that pops up, close, and we're done. So now we have our two passes, we can turn off all of this stuff. We just have our paths, our first path, which is all the middle stuff, and then our edge cutouts. And we can go ahead and save all paths and export. So there we have it. There's another final example of just walking through the mechanical phase, and just double check that what you're doing is going to work appropriately with what you expect from your KiCad file, right? When we look at this KiCad file, that's what we want to get back. Okay, so and that is what we're getting. You can see it has even added a little area out here where there's no copper, right? So it's given us exactly what we asked for. So so there we have it. Hopefully that is a good refresher on some of that. All right, good luck.